Claudia Schmitz. Claudia is a communication expert, press speaker. Claudia is facilitator for corporate development and change programs. She designs programs for leadership and change for international companies and is specialized in dynamic and agile learning settings with simulations. Claudia is founder of Senandu Learning Agency in Cologne in 2002, a company which focuses on facilitation of highly interactive workshops with strategic business simulations. Claudia worked in cooperation with several consultancies and training companies like Malik, St. Gallen, CLP London, W in Hamburg, MDI in Vienna, and of course with Salome in Sweden. Her professional experiences include studies of geography, sociology, and anthropology in Cologne. Claudia worked in the field of public relation and corporate communication for nearly 10 years. She is the Salami Master Facilitator and Solution Provider since 1999. Ongoing learning in large group intervention, systematic consulting, cultural analysis, deep facilitation, personality types are her specialization. She is a member and board advisor of IAGA Simulation and Gaming Association since 2005, supporting startup local refugee initiative in Cologne. Her expertise include finance, purchasing, project management, knowledge management, intangibles, organizational development, structural behavior, and system thinking. I am honored to invite Ms. Claudia Schmitz to deliver the address. Over to you, Claudia.
Thank you very much, Magdalena. So I welcome everybody in India and in Chennai and also in Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur. And I'm really excited to give you an insight of what I have done in my life about higher education in companies, being a consultant and doing facilitation and with business games. We will have some time for discussion afterwards, I think, and please take some notes because it is a heavy load of information. You are welcome to take screenshots or whatever to keep the memory behind so that we can discuss. I will talk about gamification in education. And I first present myself a little bit, not officially, which is already done by Magdalena, but who is me? So I do this facilitation of business board games in companies. And as you all are involved in it, we have COVID at the moment. So we have really problems to run our classes at the moment. So that's why we go and do hybrid versions where we use the internet and people are in the home offices. This is why on this picture I have a headset on. And you perhaps wonder, because there are not that many women doing this job in Germany or in Europe. Business simulations is very much a male job. But there are more and more women in the gaming industry, and there is a big report about the industry because in the computer games, more and more women are involved, and this is a new book about women in gaming, 100 pioneers of play. And if you see this picture with a lady and with a mic, with a headset, so I look a little bit in with the headset, but this is already a kind of a visual game, because we try to trigger people to remember this gesture. And perhaps some of you know that there is a much older picture which is very similar. And this looks like that. And this picture is the lady with the fist, and it is from 1940, and it was to motivate women to work in the war industry, to make weapons and to be active in the industry. And it is, we can do it. And you see it's the same picture, but how we can do it? We can do games. So this is the message. I was asked to talk about what is my passion about gaming. And actually, it is a lot what makes me passionate about it, but it is sometimes difficult to put it into words. So I try. I give you an idea what I think is so passionate about it. And first of all, I have to say I'm really curious. I like to experiment. I like to do new things. Like today, I give a lecture to 2 countries at the same time. Never done this before. So let me tell you who inspired me. So my big inspiration was a pioneer who is called Ernest Shackleton. And he was in the UK in the 1910 or so, and he found the right people to join his expedition to the Antarctic. And his ship was frozen, and they were really nearly dying, but they were all believing that they could make it. And they were in Fireland, and it is a fantastic story to read how he organized this. And his idea was to keep motivation on board. It might be really tough. So he said, everybody who is on the board has to play an instrument so that they can entertain each other. If you are just a good scientist, but you are isolated, it can get mad. So this was a very new idea just about thinking about people in stress. I really learned a lot from Ernest Shackleton. There is another one. It is Alexandra David Neil. She is from France, from Paris, and she was a lady of the society in the 1910-20s, and she studied sinology, Chinese cultures and art. And she started her journey when she was 40 years old, and she went to Tibet and explored the region. She learned all the languages, and she was introduced to be the first Lama in the monastery. So it was, for Europeans, it was impossible to do that as a woman in these days. But she had a strong will, and she was really into it, and she did it, and she inspired me a lot. Her books are fantastic. So this is, biographies are always really, really interesting. So in the recent times, there are also people who inspired me, and this is this couple here. This is a couple living in my hometown, or they live there, and they are 2 scientists, and they are the pioneers for the vaccine of COVID-19. They founded the company BioNTech in Germany, and they are cooperating with Pfizer in the US, and they make the first vaccine to protect us from the pandemic. So their life is so interesting, how they made it. How could they, as migrants in Germany, how could they create such a knowledge and passion to really find this vaccine? And yes, so it's always people who inspire us. That is my message. And you have always to try and find and look out and talk a lot to people to learn about it. So this is my first, and I have 20 years of gaming. Before my gaming idea, I was working in corporate world for corporate design, and I did corporate communication. And you are in a quite strategic environment, and it had nothing to do with games. At least I had no idea that this has to do with games. So then when I became 40, I started to work with games. So I switched my life and did something completely different. I went to Belgium to leave the country and learned from my colleagues in Belgium. And we played games with from the designer Salami. And Salami is a Swedish company, so it is really European. And these are board games. And in the beginning, I was not sure if I can really do it because they were really complex. But I learned by doing it. And I was helped by my colleagues who I could join. So I joined a lot of lessons. I had a lot of teachers who showed me their little ideas, their tricks in the situation. Because afterwards you don't know what really happens. Now you could see in the faces of the participants that they didn't understand. Things like this helped me a lot. So it was learning by doing. And then some years later, I found this wonderful institution, ISAGA. It is International Simulation and Gaming Association, which was founded 50 years ago in Germany, and it is very international. It is from the US, it's from Asia, it's from South Africa, it's from Australia. We have members from everywhere, and we have meetings once a year in a university somewhere in the world. And I'm really looking forward that we can travel again, because the next one will be in India. And of course, times changes, and we also use digital devices to play. And there are really creative ways how to use pictures and games. And I hope that you are sitting now with your mobile phones at home, and I hope that you can hear me properly and that you also see something. So this is what we have to look for, because what is good on a table is not good on a mobile phone. So we have really to structure the games according to the devices. Yeah, and the question is, what kind of personality do you need to be a good gamer? Well, I didn't know that I was a gamer before I came into this world, but afterwards I found out I think I have some personality traits that help me. And this is, I like adventures. I like being in nature. I like to travel. I like to go on mountains, to go through forests, and I like to see the beauty of nature and to experience people in this new environment. This is why I studied geography, anthropology, sociology. I love this. So this is, well, you think, what has this to do with gaming? We'll come to that. So I also like a lot being with people, and I like large groups, and I like to be in these groups and try to see that we do something creative together. And perhaps this is, we go back a little bit further to my childhood, and I show you a picture of my childhood. The one with the arrow is me, and this is a cousin of mine and my brother. And why do I show you this? Because in this age, I loved very much playing with puzzles. And my mother was very much annoyed that these 1,000, 2,000 pieces puzzles were laying on our eating table for weeks, and she had always to go around, and she did not like my game, but I wanted to finish it. I liked paintings a lot, and I made paintings on stones and on everything. And I liked very much to play memory, because you had to have a sharp mind. Where is the piece? And you have to remember it after several rounds. So usually the little girls and boys are very keen to do that properly, and grown-ups are sometimes really handicapped in it now. So this might be the basic for my passion on games, which was lost long time. So what I do now is I play with board games in the room. This is a classroom before the participants come in. And you see there are tables like islands, and there is a poster on it with drawing on. And whenever my people come into the room, they look at it and then they say, oh, this looks like Monopoly. And this is what I'm really happy about, because they have a reference to a game which they have played when they were children. So this helps a lot, because then they are curious. They want to see, what is it? How does it go? Does it make fun? So it's not the purpose that it looks like it, but I will describe later. Okay, so I have to set up the room, and then we will all sit together and start to play. And well, I did this 20 years ago. I started, and I learned and I learned and I learned a lot from my participants. If they have good questions, I can learn a lot about how to add something or what I missed to tell them. So this is always giving and taking from both sides if you play. And the more experienced the player is, the better are the questions sometimes, yeah? So it is always interesting to do it. And I play on several levels of management, and it is really interesting which questions come up. So what do they learn, and what is my intention to do it? So the topics of the workshop are, I put them into challenges. They are not have to play. They have to go into a challenge and create a new business mindset. This is the intention. We have stories about how to run a company and earn money and create cash. This is usually the most interesting, because if you are in a large company, you only see your little piece. You are an engineer, you are in marketing, you are in sales, you are in production, but you never see the whole picture. And this is one of the reasons I do that. And then we do strategic business thinking. How about growth? How can our company grow? But we could also now better talk about what do we do in a pandemic. So we will always have the reality at the side. A big topic also is, which we discuss, is agility. When to use project management the classical way, step by step, and when are we agile? And what does agile mean? Is it Scrum, or is there a mindset behind it? So this is quite interesting, because sometimes people are confused about so many new management methodologies, and we have to see what is the meaning behind it and how to combine it and when to use it. Very important is stakeholder management in difficult projects. You can be the best project manager, but you have to be a good psychologist to understand why do people act like this. And the better you know, you better you can act. And so we do project management with a little psychology lens on it. And it is how to grow a company when people make the capital. So this is, if you are a school, or if you are an architecture, or if you are administration, the machine or the thing which makes a company grow is the mind of the people. So the problem with this is, if your people leave you and go to a competitor or leave the country or whatever, you lose your whole knowledge. So this is a very interesting subject to discuss, how to keep the right people and how to make them grow and stay. These are the topics. I'm in the companies, and so I have special games for that, and I do. But I would like to show you what is behind it. Why do we do it, and what has to be learned? In Europe, we talk a lot about this phrase from consultants, and they always say, we have to think out of the box. And this phrase was created because most of the people are sitting in their boxes. They have been trained to do things exactly this and that way. And if you have done this too long, you don't know that there is another solution out there. And only your competitor is the one who innovates, and your own people don't have this idea. So everybody should innovate. So this is, first, you have to understand that you are in a box. Because especially young people in our countries, they think they do everything so different. But usually they don't see that it is just the same box, but with another color. So the question is, what is the frame you have been raised on to observe what happens in your system? And then you have to think about how to change it. Well, you in India might think, "Oh God, this is so European. They think too much." Yes, and that might be right because we are sometimes too afraid to experience because we could make mistakes, and this is a cultural issue. So I did training with an Indian guy, which is Raju Ramaban, and he's from Kerala, and he taught me Kalari Payuttar, martial arts from India. I think he is one of the 2 trainers we have in Germany. And he always told me, when you teach Germans or Indians, it's such a big difference for a teacher. And I could learn a lot from him. And he said, when I'm in India, the Indian people have no discipline. They jump over the table, they try out everything, and they create their own thing immediately. So if we want to create a martial arts technique, we all have to do the same. It is the rhythm of it. And he has to be very controlled, very disciplined to put them into the right order that things can really evolve. When he's doing the training in Germany, it is the opposite. Because in Germany, the people don't start doing things before they understood the whole thing. So they first use their mind and not their feet. But if you do martial arts, you have to use your body to do it and not only your brain. So he has to make us easy. He said, I have to joke around a lot. I have to play the fool that you start doing it and be not afraid that you look foolish. So it depends. So which game or which martial art you train in which country. And the same is for me as a facilitator. You know, when I know that people are afraid to play, I have to be very easy with them and say, don't be afraid. Nothing will happen. You can relax and we just try it out. We will have a test round. Just go into it. Don't think too much. Just let's start slowly. This is really interesting interculturally. And if I would train in another country, I would have to be very different. So it's not always depending on which game you play, but also what are the circumstances. And now I come to another topic. It is about culture, but it is also about your childhood, and it is about your gender. Because the most time we play is when we are children. And we learn the games which are used in the culture. So it is given from one child generation to the next, and usually we play all the same games for years. And girls, I can say from my experience, we like role games very much. So we play family, or we play a situation in a castle, and I'm the princess, and you are this, and you do that, and so on. We make even scripts how we play and who has which role. So it's really a role-based game. Then we have games, do you know the answer? So I ask questions and the other have to guess what it means. So it's very much in dialogue. And then, of course, puzzles. We like puzzles and do them together. We play them together. So this is when I was raised, and these were our games. So every generation has their games, and I still see a lot of this in young kids today. And so we also did this game. It is 2 holding a rubber band, and somebody has to jump over it, not to touch it, or to touch it. It's like a dance, but you have to fulfill a choreography. So, and the others will all observe you. Either they help you to be better, or they tell you you made a mistake, and then the next one is doing it. These are typical games all over the world. Boys are a little bit different. And I can remember my brother, he never had patience for something like that. He wanted to run, he wanted to have a ball running, and he needs speed. And this is a completely different way how to play. But there are also games which girls and boys both like. And this is hide and catch me. So this is a really joyful, very fast, very much with running. And it is also about interconnections. And there is a game you all know, it's a treasure destination hunt or adventure hunt. So then there is the journey of the hero. So you go through an experience, you go through a story. And you all know the films and the adventure stuff, and there are also games around it. And there are also games which became management trainings. And I show you. There is always the treasure box, the gold in the desert, or the gold in the jungle, or the gold on the mountain, and you have to find it. So you all go as a team and try to find it. And then you get some guide, you get the map from the treasure island, and then you go and with your team and try to find it. And you get some guidance. And I have a wonderful game which is really based on this story. It is called Gold of the Desert King, and it is created by the company Eagles Flight from Canada. And the team has to use advices. They have to plan the food, the water, which way to go. They have to protect from the windstorm, from the hot sun. There are all these stories from the treasure. And we even have music. Can you imagine? It's a stressful moment, and you also have very loud music to distract them. And they have to go and fight and get the feeling of we are in this situation, it's hot, and so on. And even we have costumes for the people to wear. And at the end, the music is out, the costume is out, and we ask, what's your performance? What did you go? How much gold did you get out of the desert? And then we analyze the situation and go back. And this is so interesting because they all were so much lost. And now we can analyze what happened. Why didn't you ask the old man? Why did you only think about water but never about food? No, hundreds of things happen there. Very interesting, very entertaining, very dynamic. So this game is about 4 hours. And then we have the reflection part, and then we transfer this into their reality. So what happens in your company? Do you do the same? You just go gaga and you don't understand what's going on? When do you reflect? All these kind of questions. So this is, the company needs to have a culture to allow this entertaining game, you know. Sometimes Germans are too serious for that. So, but I come to the next game. Tennis, volleyball, football, hockey, all this. And people are sitting in front of the TV and watching it. And they enjoy watching a game. Can you understand this? So you enjoy something, what other people do? Yeah, that is an interesting question. So some people try to observe the game. They don't want to go into the game. They want just to see what the others are doing. This is really tricky. Because I want them all to be engaged. I don't want people who watch TV in my seminars. The most important thing is that they do it themselves, because this is a big difference. Yeah, and in every game, we measure performance. This is what we do most of the time. We want to know, are we good? Are we bad? How are the others? Because we want to be better. And this ranking and measuring and listening about how do we do it, how good did we listen, how good did we perform, this is also part of games. But it is also sometimes hard reality in companies. You measure every detail. So the question is, does it really help? So let's see, when we go and design a game, what would we look at? And I give you a short idea. When we start designing a game, we always start with paper. It is always conceptual work. We don't program anything. We just start doing it on paper, on Post-its, on little pieces. We use little wooden stuff or coins or whatever, but we play with objects that we can touch and change. And then we invite our colleagues and friends and students, and we invite them to play with us. And then we get their feedback. And then we try another round, and then we correct it. Did they understand it? Was it easy to get in? Because you cannot plan this on a table. You have to do it as an experiment. It's rounds and rounds, and sometimes it takes a long time to make a good game really run. And this is what I like. You can test this with people who like games, and this is in my network of Isaga. We do this once a year, coming all together and show what we have designed. And there are people who like to do really complicated things. And this is sometimes the real complicated stuff is, for example, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And people think if they know how to do that, they solve the world, all the problems. And they design games, how to interact with 17 different goals and how does one impact the other. This is really complicated. And I've seen one of these games, and they are so academic, so complicated that you hardly don't want to start doing it. Games have also to be easy. And I saw another game which some students started, and there were so many objects, actors, countries, colors. You were complex, overthrown with information. You don't like to play these games, you don't understand. It needs to start easy and can get more complicated in later rounds, but don't start with everything in the beginning. And the main phrase is, make it simple, but do not simplify. And this is from science. Einstein was said to have talked about it. And when I tried to learn a little bit about it, I found an Indian proverb. And this is Hindu, and I can't read it, but perhaps some people of you can read it. It says, make it simple, but significant. And I think this is you don't lose the content or the main idea behind it. This is important. Because I have seen simulations from some professors, and because they know so much, they wanted to put in everything. And they have 70 different indicators to get done. And it is not a game anymore. It is like this. It's a lot of data, and you can't play it. It's too much. So you have to be clear what you really want to have as a message, and you have to reduce it, but make it significant. When I design a game or a workshop or a learning experience, I do it like a film script. Sometimes you have a novel and you would like to make this novel a film. So you have to transcribe the story into an act play. So you need exactly to find out when is somebody coming on stage, when do they say something, what are the circumstances. And you need to have really a plan what happens in order that everybody of the actors know when to act. And as you make a film like this, you also make a game like this. You need to know the part of each, when do they do what, and how should it all come together. I do this with pencil and paper and write my little notebooks, and I can do this every 5 minutes or so, step by step. Like now I do with the PowerPoints. I do this also with a design for the whole day. So, how to gamify? So my question is, take a game and put the content into it? Is this how you do it? Or do you analyze the content you want to play and find gaming parts in it? Or do you reduce the reality and simplify the story? I think there are all parts of it in it. And because I've seen several steps how to do it, and we use a lot of structures of existing games. And sometimes it's a card game we use, or it is an existing game which was designed for children, but we use it in project management. So the gaming mechanism is usually already there. And I told you already in the beginning, if people recognize a game and they have played it before, you don't need to explain the mechanics anymore. When you see Monopoly, all the European people would know how to play it. They would exactly see you need a dice, you have the money, you invest in streets, you build houses, and you live from the rent. This is the story of the game. And so people go into it very easy. And this helps you a lot as a facilitator, because if you want to play a complex game, it is much easier if the people understand the mechanics quickly. But a lot of people don't know the history about Monopoly, and I would like to share that with you, because Monopoly was not so much designed to have a thrilling game. It was designed 1903 by Lizzie Magie in the United States. And her goal was to show that monopolies are not good for the country because it splits. You will have very rich people and you will have a lot of poor people. And she wanted to demonstrate it that this happens if there is somebody who has a monopoly in the game and they will just buy everything and the others will lose. And she wanted to promote a theory of economics and about taxation from Henry George. So it was a political idea to do a game. So she just designed it to help people understand in communities how terrible it can be if we have the wrong taxation and people get too rich. And if you understand the American society, it's still the same case. They are still discussing heavily about what is the right taxation. So you don't need to know all that. The game itself plays wonderfully, but there is always a message behind some games, and it is interesting to find out what are we learning here. Okay, this is Monopoly, and there are other games. There is, for example, chess, which is 700 years old, or the Chinese game Go, which is 3,000 years old. And they have just some stones and some rules, but they are really complex, as you know. So we have also games which are puzzles. And there's even a film about the puzzle. And I liked very much the key phrase in it. And the guy in the game said, the joy in puzzle is if you complete a puzzle, you know that you have made all the right choices because it is done. And it doesn't matter which piece came first. The whole thing is, it is finished. It is done. You can see it. No piece is missing. And this is a wonderful feeling of completion. And there is also games which are from toys, from children. And we use this like avatars, and we talk about situation in companies. Who is the boss? Who is the people around it? Where is the problem in the connection, in the relationship? We can do it wonderfully if we have avatars and see the avatars on the table interacting, and then we can also see it from a distance. That helps a lot to understand situations. Sometimes we use cards, and there is a nice card game with all the royalties of the UK. So how easy could it be? You offer a game and you learn by playing it. So this is 1,000 years of history from Alfred the Great to Queen Elizabeth II. And I think every country has some heritage learning like this. And this is also nice. I told you I like memory games. And nowadays in the art industry, you find in the museums this game about arts. So the game goes like this. You have 60 cards and pictures, and you have to find the two which are alike and from one painter. So there are 30 artists. And the game first starts easy, find the pairs. And if you have found the pairs, there is a next round for advanced students. You have to tell who is the painter. And the more often you play it, the more you will learn about the painter. So in this case, it is Jan van Meer from 1630, and he is a Dutch painter, and he liked blue and golden colors. There is another game which is not about pictures, but about questions, and it is called the empathy game. And I played it in my family, and it is wonderful. So it is helping people who come together before they only talk stupid small talk, what they have read in the news in the morning or what happened last week. You ask them questions like, how different was your life 1 year ago? So you let them think and bring a story, and then you throw the dice, and then the next person gets a question like, imagine if you could invent something, what would it be? So you could come up and get into the mind of what is in their head, what is their passion, what would they love to do? And you have completely different talks, and it might be much deeper. So you can use this at home for family and friends, or you can also use this as coming together for team building in companies. And you can create these cards easily by yourself. You just have to find good questions. And this is already in this game. And there is a picture I show you. It is always a little bit magic with games. And you, as the facilitator who is instructing, helping, supporting the game, is a very critical role, because you have to keep the attention high and you have to see that they really learn something. It's not only for game. So the role is to bring the game, then you reflect on reality, and then you go back into the game, reflect on reality, and that is about seeing patterns. Yeah? And that there is a relationship between it. The game is more simple, reality is complex, but there might be the same rules, circumstances, situations like in the game. And we could also see that what we learn is about how do we create the future of reality? So how could we change? And a lot of people don't know what are the blockades. It might even be a rule that has to change because it blocks behavior. So in real life, we have more games than we know, because a lot of things are gamified at the moment. Because gamification is not something you do very consciousness. Sometimes it's a kind of nudging. The psychologist in the University of Chicago, they wrote a book about nudging. And it is about unconsciousness movement of people. They don't know that they are triggered, but they still do it. It can be for the good and it can be for the bad of people. So nudging is not far away from gaming. And I show you some situation which you all might have experienced. And this is about booking a hotel in booking.com. When you do this, on the left side, you give in which city you want to stay, what is the date of arrival, what is the date of departure, and how many people do you want to go with. And then in this, the hotel comes up, and then they tell you, oh, it was booked already 3 times in the last 24 hours. Oh, there are only 7 rooms left. So they try to get you into a hurry to book. And then they say, well, 4,000 people said it's good. Or if you do it now for 5 nights, you will get a special price. So they all get you into a hurry because the resources getting small, and if you don't book today, you can't get it. And it is the best price. All these kind of mechanisms is, it's nudging, it's triggering, it's moving your unconsciousness to act. And this is very much a gaming part. We have experienced similar things in the election of the US. And last weeks before the election, everybody was sitting in front of the TV and watching the game Trump versus Biden. It was like a tennis match. Who gains which country? What is going on? All the estimations and statistics and vote analysis. So they made it, the journalists made it like it is a game, it is a race. So you can do this with doing flow, like on the left side, or you can show in a gamish way the landscape and the map of the United States with all the states in it, and then you can flip them from red to blue, red to blue. You know, it was the challenge in it. Who wins the last Philadelphia, Georgia, and so on. And this is also a kind of getting it interesting. It is a gamification. And then, so the whole story was triggering not only US people, but also other people in the world. And there is a big risk in doing it like a game because it makes it too simple. It's not black and white, or red and blue. So there are people and have different ideas. I don't need to go into all that, you know that. So this is gamification. And there is another thing. It is this is an illustration of the journey of the voting. So it starts November 3rd, election day. Then we had mid-November through December. It is the next part. Then the 3rd December and so on. And only in January 20 will be the handover. And you could say all these different steps in the journey is a kind of a adventure race, adventure hunt. So it is organized like a journey, and this gives the thrill into it and makes it more interesting. And if you think about the children's games, it's very similar. So you have stations, stops, and something will happen there. So we use visualization a lot to make it interesting. If you would just have it in an uninteresting collection of information, it is not that interesting. So we have to catch the interest of the people, and illustration in games is a really, really important fact. And I would like you to introduce to a person, a researcher and scientist. Unfortunately, he passed away some years ago. It is a Swedish guy, Hans Rosling. And Hans Rosling had to describe how the world's development in every country and the health of the people influenced the economic growth. And he used bubbles. So he used Excel sheets, and his bubbles became alive. And he could go through the centuries and show how the different countries developed and all how they moved into a different situation. There are fantastic TED Talks about it. It's not a game, but it's gamish, and it is about making it into action. Give it life to it, so you could observe it. So this is the thrill about it, and he described it wonderfully. Then when he found out you can even make it easier. He uses boxes and said, you see, these people in this country, they got more wealth and they could buy a refrigerator now. And now they move into the other situation. So he describes it with boxes and takes a lot of action around it. Very, very interesting. So he gives an experience to what he's saying. And this is also a game part, getting the experience and let people observe it. He wrote a book, which is called Factfulness, and I think it is really very interesting to make very complex situations so that people can understand it. So I would like to show you a little movie, and let me see how to do that. And my question is this a game or what is it? It's about making robots.
There are a bunch of different kinds of robots. There are big ones that work in warehouses, small ones that double as a vacuum and a Catmobile, and others that just want to dance. You go, little robots. Hi, I'm Andy. I'm a product designer at KiwiCo. We design robots that you can build at home. There's the Drawbot, which will make you a masterpiece, the coin-eating robot, which will store your change, the light-chasing robot, which will follow a flashlight, and the walking robot, which will, you guessed it, walk. Robots come in all shapes, sizes, and complexities. And while advanced robots like this may seem complicated, they're actually pretty similar to humans. Most robots have a body or a frame. How they look on the outside depends on the type of job they do. A robot's control system is like a brain. It uses information to determine how the robot will behave. Sensors are the parts of the robot that collect information and send it to the control system. They mimic human senses. Cameras act as sight, microphones act as hearing, or more complex sensors are used to detect touch, taste, and smell. Actuators are like muscle.
And so on and so on. I stop it here. They send little boxes home to the kids, and the kids make a toy out of it, and they play with it. So the big question I have, is this a gaming, and is the reduced version of a game? This is my question, and I really think, do kids really learn that this is a robot or is it a toy? So, well, you could say, well, kids use it as a toy, but they have the mechanics of how it is used. They can see immediately when they come and see a big robot. because usually they wouldn't see the big robot, they only see the toy. So it's a very good exercise on the technique, how things fit together. In the old days, they played with cars and they played with the trains. And I think it is interesting to build your own toy. It's a kind of gamification too. So this is also sometimes used in management training, that they have to build their own toy to express themselves and to see the mechanics. It's really interesting how we transfer a lot of games from the childhoods to the management training, but we have a deeper thinking behind it, of course. So what is a game? What do you need for a game? You need rules. You need a system where there are certain rules. There are actors in it. Some people have to interact. There should be a story behind it. And it is a frame, a board, or something where you can play with, which limits also the situations, the resources, and so on. And from the learning environment, you have to create a situation where people really can concentrate and do it. The goal is maximizing of enjoyment by engagement. So you have to get everybody engaged in it. And you have to still capture the interest. If it is too complicated, people lose interest. If it is too simple, people lose interest. We call this also the flow. You have to inspire them for continuous learning. They need to be further challenges in it, that they go on and try a more difficult situation. And what is gamification? It is the process of finding the elements of fun in games, use these elements in a non-game environment, serious environment, and to influence behavior. And this is the most important thing. So you get an insight, you experience something, you learn from your body, from your situation, and then you say, if I do this in this way, it would be better. So people try out new behavior. And this is what we found in business, that they change behavior because of insights they made themselves. If you teach people and tell them what to do, they go in resistance. But if they find out themselves and they make their own decision to do it, it's much more helpful. So we talk about serious games since the 90s. So, some people struggle with the name because, game's the game. Why is it serious? Because it has a serious purpose. So I give you an idea about Monopoly and what we need to play it. From the left side, we need some instructions and guidance. How is it set up? What do we have to do? There are several rounds which we play. We need a dice to structure who is the next one to play. We need tension. It's a drum. We need some tension in it. People need to get excited. Some people nearly get a heart attack. So you need really to get them engaged. You have a time. You have some timer who is taking control of it. You need, of course, the players. You have to make decisions and it has to be done. The decision is done and then it's the next. So these are all elements of a game, and we use it not only in Monopoly, but also in the big games, board games for management. And I give you a short overview of the types of games. So we have simulations. Simulations are games which reduce the complexity of reality. And sometimes you can learn by just observing the process. Some simulations are a little bit further. They have game elements and you can change some pieces and then the simulation will change in the outcome. We have the hunt, the story, the objective, the journey, which I described before, and you have to find the key. Then we have role plays. You will set a story and the people get the roles and you say you play this and you play that, and then it evolves and the people are playing. Then we have the quiz. It's also a game. You ask a question and there are two solutions and you have to know or to guess what is the right yes or no. And you collect points. And the winner is who has the most point. You can put a lot of things into this quiz about a company, about situations in cash or whatever. Sometimes we also use to build a bridge or to build something from paper, or we really try to be really experimental. And this is not about the outcome that we need the bridge, but about the process. We observe how do they interact. Do they come easy to a conclusion how it should look like? Who takes what? How do you differentiate the jobs in the whole situation? So it's a lot about observing. Is it only one person who plays, or are all involved? So how do you lead a self-organized group? Very, very interesting. Okay, and then we have cards and so on. And you can use all kinds of these gaming pieces to create a bigger learning journey. And you could have each round another game. So I show you a quiz, which I use. And this is about the story of a factory. And we want to find out where is the cash in the company. So it's very much finance driven. And you will collect coins and we score up your knowledge. And there are situations in the company, and for example, it reads out, if we can purchase raw materials at the same price, let's order less to keep in inventory. So the question is, does this have a positive or negative impact on cash flow? So you have to answer yes and right, and then another picture pops up and tells you what is the right and the wrong answer, and then you can discuss it with the students. Usually I use it the other way around. I first help them to understand, and then I do the quiz. The quiz is just to help finish this workshop. And of course, we have toys like Lego. And there is in Europe, we play a lot Lego serious game. Lego is a Danish company, and all the children have played with Lego in Europe. And so they know this already. So it is the same. We trigger old ideas. And of course, I have to say, Lego wanted to have a new market. So not only the kids who play, but it is also about grown-ups who play. And this will be the end of my presentation. I show you a little video again, and it is about the mindset behind learning.
What is learning? Learning is an active social process. Learning is about making connections. Learning is about stuff that sticks. This is Lego Serious Play for Education in 3 minutes. Let's meet two children, Matthew and Sarah. Matthew has been put in a traditional classroom. Matthew's teacher delivers learning like packages from a warehouse. She prepares these blocks of information about science and math and literature and delivers them from the cart of wisdom, loading them up into the brains of her students. But there's a problem. These packages are never really opened and explored. They're just piled up. Matthew finds they just don't stick in his brain. They're not connected to anything, and they soon just fall off. Matthew knows he's received lots of stuff, but never really made sense of it. Most of it's gone now. His friends feel this too, although as isolated learners, they don't really talk about it. Sarah's teacher has a different approach. She doesn't push out knowledge in blocks to individual students. She helps young people to more deeply connect with subjects by working things out for themselves. This started a couple of years ago. Sarah's teacher wanted to change her teaching practice and bring more learning into the classroom. She wanted all students to feel successful while learning. A tool she has used to lead this change is Lego Serious Play for Education. They've got these sets. They've got some guides with simple processes that teachers can use, developed by educational psychologists and teachers working with children.
Yeah, and this is not only used for children, and it is used for management. And, you know, as I told you, we have to ease up managers here. They think too much. And this is a problem. So we have to trigger their childhood. They should start to play, and they should put things together just to demonstrate how the new IT system would look like if they do it this and this way. So it is really for serious reasons, but they start playing. And what we do is we have to use our 5 senses in gaming. It is all of them are belonging to humans, and we should not only use our brains to do that. And I flip around a little bit. I think I have 1 minute left. These are games which we use in management. It's for change. You have to move the pieces, and it looks like a child toy. We have to touch money and to use it into moving around in a company. And this is, we use patterns. And it's so when we use Monopoly, it looks like Monopoly. So these are all these kind of structures which we did. And I think we have to bring out the child in our managers to really enjoy it, but to always, especially if they like playing, you have to get them back, because we are not here for playing. We have to reflect and go back. What does it mean in our reality? And this is why you need a facilitator for a game. They really have to see when to stop it, when to bring in, and ask a lot of questions. Facilitations is about asking them. They have to think and come up with the ideas. It's not your knowledge. You just have to get it out. So it's a very interesting job, and it's very different from teaching, though you need to know the answer. So this is my introduction in gaming and what is my passion all about it and why I like to do it. And yes, I'm open to hear your questions.
Hello. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, you can take back the power now.
Ma'am, I have a question. Ma'am, I have a question for gamification.
Yes.
Any factors that affect gamification in learning, ma'am?
I didn't understand the first word. Is there any?
Factors that affect gamification in learning.
Well, is there any recept, you mean?
I mean, ma'am, effect.
Effect.
Yeah.
Well, a game needs to have fun elements. If you don't make it fun, it is more construction. So the gamers need to play themselves. You cannot play for them. So they need to understand what they have to do. So you have to get them into it. And there is not a recipe, because there are thousands of possibilities. You have always tried to start small and make it more complicated in the run. Does it answer your question, or do you need more?
Any more questions, students?
What is your experience? How many games did you play in the university? You use computer-based?
Yeah. In our college, like I don't remember all of them, but we used to play lots of games during time or also has organized games during classes, ma'am.
Very, very good. So how long was the longest game?
like we play a whole class, like a 1 hour or something like that.
Yeah. My longest was 3 days. Yeah. So, have you also designed games for yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Sometimes we make role plays.
Hmm?
Thank you, Claudia. That was indeed plenty of food of thought. Usually, students on a journey of the mechanisms of gamification. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Magdalena. Thank you very much. And enjoy the day.
Thank you. Wish you the same.
Thank you.
Students, we've come to the end of the third session. We started the